Hey everyone, Brayden here coming to you with a breaking Disney news update as the fiscal year 2021 first quarter earnings call just ended. We got all the facts and figures and some commentary from CEO Bob Chapek and CFO Christine McCarthy on the financial situation with the parks and resorts as well as the rest of the company. And to start off, the two big numbers continuing a trend as with the last few earnings calls, the parks are down big compared to the same quarter last year with a quote estimated detriment of approximately $2.6 billion at the Disney Parks and Experiences segment. And the other big number also continuing the trend, Disney Plus subscribers are up big with the platform having 94.9 million subscribers as of January 2nd, 2021. That was the last day of Q1 for Disney. That is a 9% gain from just the start of December, just the previous month, and a 258% gain from this time last year when the subscriber number was 26 million for the Disney Plus subscription service. With this, Bob Chapek said the company is going to continue streamlining their content model, their studios to produce content for their direct-to-consumer business. And then we have everything that we heard about the parks during this call. So going into this event, a lot of fans, they expected to hear an opening date for Remy's Ratatouille adventure in EPCOT, which didn't happen, and I didn't expect us to hear anything because I don't see why they would, honestly. Disney's whole narrative right now with the parks is that there is this huge, unprecedented level of demand for the parks, and they even said on the earnings call multiple times today that they do not have enough supply to meet the demand for the parks. And my question is, what are they talking about? Are there not enough hotel rooms? Are there not enough park reservations? Not enough what? It's weird because the questions they got during the earnings call, people from investment firms and banks, they were asking about when Disney can further increase park capacity at Walt Disney World, like that'll have some huge bearing on the earnings. It's almost like there's this picture painted in some investors' minds that there's this huge tank of water of demand and Disney has only slightly opened the spigot thus far, and that there's tons of people that want to go to Disney that have been blocked out by booked up rooms, filled up park reservations, when we know park capacity is at such a point in Walt Disney World now that the parks rarely, if ever, are booked up on the parks reservation page. And here's the thing, that doesn't mean Disney's secretly failing here or something. They're doing pretty well in the parks right now. The parks are pretty busy. Crowds right now feel like they're pretty close to normal levels to me. What I'm saying here is this whole idea that there's millions and millions of people wanting to go right now that can't because the parks are full due to capacity limits. We haven't seen any evidence of that. And the reason I'm not just going off of Disney's word this time on this is because going into the reopening of Walt Disney World last year, Bob Chapek made a similar statement that they were seeing lots of demand and lots of reservation volume. And then when Walt Disney World opened with the tiny park capacities, still sometimes they weren't able to book up the parks. The following earnings call, they even said that demand was less than they had anticipated. And I think it's possible both what I'm seeing in the parks and what Disney's saying could be true. Because during the call, Christine McCarthy mentioned how they're seeing good long-term interest in the parks and people booking hotels. So maybe when Disney's saying there's more demand than there is supply, they aren't talking about right now, February 2021. They're talking about later this year, perhaps a second wave of pent-up demand coming to the parks, perhaps this summer or fall, and that will be such a huge wave of guests that we will again have the park reservations full every day, and the question will be back to, as it was in August and September of last year, I can't get into the parks, when will Disney lift up the capacity limits? But as it stands currently from what I'm seeing in the parks are pretty busy, but the demand does seem to be about normal, and I don't feel like there is anything limiting guests who want to go to Walt Disney World right now from going. There is availability with both rooms and park reservations. So really at this point, the only time the slightly lower than normal capacity should be noticed is during the busiest times of the year. And by the time the summer rolls around, based on the rate that Disney's been increasing the park capacity limits, by then we'll probably see even more park reservations available for people to get, which should meet up with demand. That would be my guess there. On another note, responding to a question during the call, Bob Chapek said to expect mask requirements and social distancing requirements in the parks to continue through the rest of this year, saying the situation might change sometime in 2022. I wouldn't take that as anything concrete. I think he's just saying, if you are a guest who does not want to wear a mask, 2021 might not be the best time to book a trip to the parks if that's not something you want to deal with in the summer in the Florida sun. If you do not want to wear a mask, 2022 might be a safer bet. Also, Chapek did name drop the projects we've been covering here in Walt Disney World. First, he mentioned the projects coming together in EPCOT. Take a listen to this.
At Walt Disney World Resort, we're hard at work on 2 brand new attractions at EPCOT, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure and the highly anticipated Marvel-themed roller coaster, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Work is also well underway on the all-new spectacular nighttime show, Harmonious. This is all part of a much larger reimagining of EPCOT to make it more Disney, more family-friendly, more timeless, and more magical.
So there you go. You heard it from the big man himself. EPCOT is becoming more Disney. At a certain point, it's like, what can you say? Of course, I don't agree with making EPCOT like all the other parks. I know a lot of you feel the same. The fact that EPCOT is so unique is what makes it so beloved. And all EPCOT needs in order to be EPCOT again is just some executives that believe in what the park stands for. Contrary to what you might think, there are corporations with the kind of huge advertising budgets out there where you would certainly get enough to jump at the chance to fund pavilions to make EPCOT what it was, but something better that reflects the 21st century. It's not a lack of interest from companies or from the fans in what EPCOT once was. It's a lack of interest from Disney, who sees the spaces where you could have futuristic, inspiring pavilions with rides funded by innovative companies as space better spent promoting Disney's media. The synergy idea, right? Where you have the movie and then you have the ride based on the movie with the gift shop inside of it selling merchandise from the movie, with the food cart also in there selling a cupcake themed after the movie. But if we're playing the how do we get an ordinary family to Walt Disney World game, there is no denying big names like Guardians of the Galaxy, Ratatouille, Moana, and Coco in the Nighttime Spectacular. In theory, that does sound like a good plan marketing-wise to draw new guests to the parks, and it's most definitely the reason why Disney has finally ponied up the cash to give EPCOT some much-needed love. It came at the worst time, which is nothing new for EPCOT, but work is continuing in large part with a few exceptions, as you can see in our new construction tour for this month. Something else interesting, Chapek mentioned the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser experience, saying it's going to blow guests away. He went on to talk about the projects happening at other parks outside of Walt Disney World, and it got me thinking. He ended up naming virtually every major project that they're still committed to completing at the Disney parks right now, with the exception of one. He did not mention the Tron coaster, which we also just did a construction update on. That one was not mentioned. The obvious theory as to why is because the project is delayed. Perhaps it has to do with that long rumored idea that Disney is going to make the exteriors of Tron and even perhaps Guardians look pretty complete on the outside, and then they can halt work on the inside and the attractions can sit incomplete until the park's revenue situation improves enough to the point where they are willing to commit more money with capital expenditures to actually complete these projects. But as it stands, work looks to be going at a pretty steady pace, at least on the outside of both Tron and Guardians right now. So it got me thinking, maybe another possible theory as to why Tron isn't being talked about is because, contrary to the claims of unprecedented demand, Disney wants guests to book trips now, to go to Walt Disney World sooner rather than later. And combining that with the pretty obvious fact that the Tron Light Cycle Run attraction is delayed, if Disney keeps talking about that project and all their potential customers are hearing about it and they're saying, oh, I'm going to wait to go to Disney, I'm going to wait to ride Tron, a ride which Disney, maybe they aren't sure when they're going to end up committing the budget to completing it. A very similar situation is said to have happened with Galaxy's Edge, where if you remember, Disney hyped up Galaxy's Edge for years and years, and it ended up hurting room reservation volume in the interim, in the lead up to the opening of the land, because guests wanted to wait to go when Galaxy's Edge was open. So that could be something that Disney's doing here, just not talking about Tron to try to get guests to come sooner rather than waiting for an attraction where perhaps Disney isn't sure exactly even when they want to open it. Let me know your theory as to why Disney isn't mentioning Tron. It could also just be a simple oversight, but hey, I did the listening for you guys. That was the parks related news from the earnings call. Still no word on an opening date for Remy's Ratatouille Adventure in EPCOT, but when we do get word on any further Disney news, I'll be right here to take you through all the latest. So be sure you're subscribed with those notifications on. One last note as far as future spending at the parks, Christine McCarthy said CapEx is going down in the parks and increasing on the media side, on the media business, that side of the company. And I think we have the current situation of what is going on in the world right now to blame for that. Disney cut CapEx in the parks almost in half last quarter. It's funny though how they keep saying so confidently that there's this huge demand for the parks, yet that demand has not given them enough confidence to continue investing in the resorts at the levels they were before. It's really all over the place with Disney. Are they in good shape? Are they in bad shape? There's sort of all sorts of things pointing different directions. I think based on those Disney Plus numbers alone, they're doing quite all right now. But if you quit investing in new projects in the parks, it's only a matter of time before that will have an effect on attendance and demand. There is a limit to how much you can cut down on the offerings in the parks and still get people deciding to go and paying the prices that Disney charges. It may not be noticeable right away, but the longer things like the parking trams stay down, the EPCOT monorail, which is still down, the band that is no longer in the Grand Floridian, and some other things Disney's been doing, maybe it's not noticeable right away, but it will be. And I think the guest reaction to Disney announcing that they are going to be doing away with the Magical Express service is proof positive of a sentiment that is being created among some of Disney's biggest customers right now, where they are being charged the same for less. And you can only do that for so long before guests start to take notice. So that's what I would say as far as the future, investing in the parks and things like that. Disney might want to keep those things in mind. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon from the Mickey V's Magic Studio. This is Brayden. Have a magical day.